So we've seen different cavities like the pericardial, the pleural. Now we're in the peritoneum. Then that's going to be in the stomach and most of the intestines. Just like when we saw pericardium and pleural, we have a visceral, which is going to be the membrane on the actual digestive organs. So you're going to see that same that visceral pericardium is on the heart. Visceral peritoneum is on most of the digestive organs, not all, but most. Parietal is going to be that membrane that's going to be the outer membrane. So again, peritoneum, the peritoneal membrane is double layer. And so this is going to be on the body wall. So it's going to be on the wall of the abdomen. Then the space between the visceral and the parietal is called the peritoneal cavity. So that's the space between the two layers, the visceral layer and the parietal layer. And this is going to have serosal fluid. So it's going to have clear fluid that is going to lubricate. So we've seen this in the past too. Anytime we have moving organs, whether it's the heart, the lungs, or the digestive organs, then we're going to have some fluid to lubricate so there's no friction, and that can cause inflammation. So we have ones in the abdominal cavity. We have organs that are called intraperitoneal, meaning that is in the peritoneal cavity. So it's within the peritoneum, meaning these are covered with visceral peritoneum. Then we have retroperitoneal organs, and retro means usually behind. So this is going to be organs that are posterior to the peritoneum. So they're actually not included in that. And these organs are going to be the pancreas is actually not involved in the peritoneum. The duodenum, which we're going to see, is the beginning of the small intestine, the first part off the stomach. And certain parts of the large intestine are retroperitoneal organs. Even the kidneys kind of looked at. Those are not talking, we're talking about those in the urinary system, not part of the digestive, but they're considered retroperitoneal as well. They're behind this part. But then also we have things called mesenteries. So these are going to be double layers of peritoneum as well, and they're actually fused. So what do these mesenteries do? Not only do they extend from the body wall, so they come off and then they usually encircle the intestinal, so small intestine, large intestine, and attach to the body wall. So all of these intestines, so all of the small intestine, all of the large intestine are all these tubes. Well, they need a blood supply to come in. They need lymphatics for the immune system, but also fat digestion, and they need nerves to communicate with the smooth muscle. So how do all of these things, blood vessels, to absorb and help treat or provide nutrients to the cells and absorb whatever they're digesting? Well, it goes through this clear kind of tissue, and allows the vessels to get to all sides of the intestine. So you can have blood vessels going through here and going all over through this clear kind of double layered tissue of peritoneum. It also can hold organs in place so they can have a specific arrangement and hold them off of the body wall. And you can also have some fat tissue for any energy that can be in the mesentery as well. So greater omentum is a specific type. So we're going to have mesentery proper that we're going to talk about that's in between the small intestine, and we're going to see it between the large intestine too. The greater omentum, is attached to the stomach, and it's specifically going to be on the greater curvature. And we'll see that when we get to the stomach, and especially in lab. Greater curvature meaning kind of the larger curve here on the stomach. The greater omentum is attached to the greater curvature of the stomach and attaches to the transverse colon. So we're going to see again in lab that the colon it goes ascending, transverse because it goes across or horizontally, and then goes descending. So it's attaching between the greater curvature of the stomach and that transverse colon right here. This is going to help hold fat that can help with protection because remember, we're in our abdominal cavity. There's no bones here. There's muscle and then there's fat. So we need to protect all of these digestive organs in some way. So we use fat or adipose tissue to actually pad and protect these organs. Then we have our mesenteries, which I mentioned before. So mesentery proper is going to be with the small intestine, and it attaches the small intestine to the posterior body wall, but also kind of connects between all of the kind of parts of the small intestine because it's not a straight tube that you see in this picture. It actually curls around and goes around and all over. So we have mesentery kind of throughout. We also have mesocolon. This is dealing with the large intestine, and it connects the large intestine to the posterior body wall as well. So we're able to kind of hold all of our intestinal tract in place. We can hold the small intestine in place to the posterior body wall and between each other with the mesentery proper. And we can hold the large intestines kind of in place and between each other when we look at the mesocolon. Lastly, we had a greater omentum and we're going to have a lesser omentum. So this is going to be kind of a little bit smaller. So you can see the greater omentum is going to be kind of right here coming off the greater curvature. And then we're going to have the lesser omentum here. The lesser omentum is between the stomach and the liver. So we have close association with the liver, and we'll talk about the liver later, and this digestive system in general. So we have, again, when we have these tissues, mesenteries, greater omentum is fat, lesser omentum is going to be more blood vessels that are going to go between the stomach and the liver. So it's kind of a roadway between them for vessels. Lastly, we have what we call the falciform ligament. The falciform ligament is going to actually connect the liver to the anterior body wall. So it's a little tiny spot. We'll see again in lab where that is between the liver lobes, but it's going to hold the liver anteriorly to the position. And you have to kind of worry if you're having surgery. Usually it's kind of opening the abdomen in this area close to the liver. You have to be aware of the falciform ligament because it's a lot of fat and kind of tissue that can be in the way. So this is just looking at a different picture. We have the lesser omentum. Again, it's coming off the stomach and it's coming off what we call the lesser curvature of the stomach. See how it's kind of a smaller curve, a smaller C. And then the liver is going to be connected over here. Then we have the greater omentum coming off the greater curvature of the stomach. And that's going to come down and cover kind of like a curtain in front of the intestines, again, for protection. We have, this is looking at the small intestine part of it. So we have our mesentery proper is all of this tissue. So you can see it's in between the small intestine and holding it to the posterior body wall. So again, blood vessels, lymphatics, nerves, things that need to get to all the parts of the small intestine are going to go through the mesentery. Then we have the mesocolon, same thing. You see all of this because this is the colon or the large intestine. So you have all of this coming between, same thing. We need vessels to go to the large intestine, and there's part that holds it to the posterior body wall too. So it's just a bunch of tissues that are going to help kind of connect all of the intestinal tract, whether it's the small intestine or the large intestine.